New Africa Network. And is everyone here? Is the ambassador there? Okay, well, I'll just.
Yes, I am.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Okay, yeah, so as I welcome you again, welcome one and all to the New Africa Network dialogue, One Love. And so what this, as I said, this is called the New Africa Network. And as Yohani would say, this is about networking. So, you know, we're not wearing suits or ties, or we're not all uptight. It's like we met in the Black Bucks Cafe, and we're all just here to network. And today we have a very special guest from Trinidad and Tobago. We have Her Excellency, Madam Ambassador Makeda Antoine-Cambridge. And I'll give a brief introduction, and then I'll let her do the best job, because no one can tell you about themselves better than themselves. So I'll just read what I have, okay? And everyone has this on the flyer, okay? So Makeda Antoine-Cambridge was the 10th Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary and Permanent Representative of Trinidad and Tobago to the United Nations and specialized agencies in Europe. She was also the ambassador to Italy and Austria. She has traveled to more than 60 countries in a dedicated and international information and communications technology career, spanning more than 20 years. She has negotiated high-end settlements, corporate communication packages, and lucrative telecom deals at the sea level with mobile operations across the Americas, Africa, the Middle East, the South Pacific, Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. Today, she will be here speaking to us about technology and the preparedness of Africans in the diaspora for this new digital age. And as we see, she has more than qualified with her communications background. And Sister, Madam Excellency, I will let you have the floor. Oh, I forgot one important thing. This is one of the most important things. She's my sister-in-law.
Hi.
Right? Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So I had to leave that. I couldn't go to bed tonight if I failed to mention that. And I see a lot of people. I see my other sister-in-laws tuning in from New York and in Trinidad. And I see a lot of relatives tuning in. And so this is good. Madam Excellency, Your Excellency, I yield the floor to you so that you can do what you do and bless us with your words and your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Alola. I wasn't sure if you were sharing that we were related in this forum, but yes, I am his sister-in-law. Okay, I'm not sure what just happened there. Are you seeing me? Yes.
Yes.
Today's a special day in the world of Africans and African diaspora. It is Mandela Day. Today is the birthday of Nelson Mandela. He would have been 102 years old if he was alive. In 2013, I was fortunate to sit in a cell and get a tour of the Robben Island prison where he was kept for so many years. And I think, because I think it was around 2013, I started to become more community and politically involved on a leadership point of view. From a child in the church, in the community, I've been pretty involved, but this is more at a national scale. It happened in 2013, and I think sitting in his cell did something to me. Because even if I came from humble beginnings, I realized how blessed I was to have the opportunities I've had. And at that time, I committed to making and doing my part to make the world a better place. In the screen went blank. Today, we also say rest in peace to civil rights leaders, Congressman John Lewis and C.T. Vivian, who we have lost yesterday. I don't know. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were hearing me. My screen went blank. Make sure it stays there. In the world of ICT, information and communications technology, I grew accustomed to being the only woman or the only Black woman in a telecom conference. And I would be warmly greeted by my African brothers, Nigerians, Ghanaians, Kenyans, saying, my sister, my sister. And given how we have been brought up and what slavery has done to us, there is always a desire to bring the diaspora and the motherland together. But culturally, politically, different forces fight against that. So being received so warmly by my African brothers and sisters, I would always be like surprised, like, oh, okay, hi my brother, hi my sister. But it was the starting of me understanding that we are one. We are one, and we are unique and beautiful people. Today, I want to talk with you just a little bit on technology and the digital age that we have not only been experiencing, but it is a fourth industrial revolution, which is about to peak. This is a very unique time to have this conversation because the UN has designated 2015 to 2024 the International Decade of People of African Descent, themed recognition, justice, and development. And as the world grapples with COVID, we also see the most unprecedented global uprising against racism, led by the Black Lives Matter movement. The time is right for this conversation, since the decision makers stand ready to listen and hopefully action. Thank you to the organizers of this important session on this auspicious day. New Africa Network, good afternoon to all listeners. As a member of the diaspora, I am a citizen of the beautiful twin island of Trinidad and Tobago. We are known for the greatest show on earth, our carnival, the birthplace of the steel pan and some of the best athletes in the world, cricketers, Brian Lara, footballers, track athletes. I have been fortunate to live in the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and manage the African territories. So I have traveled to at least 23 African countries, from Morocco to Mozambique, from Senegal to Kenya, and successfully launched telecom services throughout. Today, I want to touch on, I separated them into 7 questions, and I will try not to be too long. Well, 5 questions. What is the fourth industrial revolution and digital transformation? What are the evils and challenges with this technology? Where are we now? What are African and diaspora governments doing? And how do we become prepared for these opportunities? According to the World Economic Forum, the fourth industrial revolution represents a fundamental change in the way we live, work, and relate to one another. It is a new chapter in human development, enabled by extraordinary technology advances commensurate with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolution. These advances are merging the physical, digital, biological worlds in ways that create both huge promise and potential peril. The speed, breadth, and depth of this revolution is forcing us to rethink how countries develop, how organizations create value, and even what it means to be human. It's more than just technology driven. It's an opportunity to help everyone, including leaders, policymakers, and people from all groups, to harness converging technologies in order to create an inclusive, human-centered future. The real opportunity is to look beyond technology and find ways to give greatest number of people the ability to positively impact their families, organizations, and communities. Companies are preparing for this. They see it as a windfall. Microsoft expects 149 million jobs in the technology sector to be created over the next 5 years. Jobs in software development, data analysis, cybersecurity. All of this is more urgent because of a challenge converging over the last 2 decades in a stagnation and decline in employer investment training. However, this training is a little bit different to past economic eras. According to Professor Yuval Noah Harari, this requires a lifelong rolling wave, not just an activity undertaken pre-employment. Training would be core to both the pandemic period that we are undergoing right now, as well as the more long-term changes in the workplace of the fourth industrial revolution. According to the International Labour Organization, the pandemic has left 1 in 6 young people out of work, while those who are still working have seen their hours drop by 23%. World Youth Skills Day, which was celebrated this week, July 15th, their focus is on skills for resilient youth. President of Microsoft, Brad Smith, said, "The pandemic has shined a harsh light on what was already a widening skills gap around the world, a gap that will need to be closed with even greater urgency to accelerate economic recovery." And notice the play and the same theme that runs throughout all the different experts, the urgency. According to the World Bank, COVID-19 pandemic has shaken the global economy. Technologies as AI, artificial intelligence, and automation are transforming the way we live and work. Which leads me to digital transformation. Since COVID-19, everybody is online. Small businesses, large businesses, enterprises, entrepreneurs, artists, everybody. I'm in the field of ICT for the last 20 years. We've been forcing them online, expecting this to happen. Now with this pandemic, everybody is more welcoming and more open to go online. Professor Lloyd Waller, a professor of digital transformation at the University of West Indies, Mona, Jamaica campus, he says, digital transformation since COVID-19, more and more organizations are open and less resistant to change. If appropriately harnessed, digital technologies hold immeasurable potential to leapfrog the socio-economic development of countries around the world. In particular, these technologies can transform our interactions as well as our relationship between key stakeholders, governments, businesses, and citizens. But it is very easy for us to say technology as a force is evil, driving up unemployment. But in the case of refugees, many of whom had qualifications in their native countries, but were forced to flee with no documentation, could actually benefit from the technology. With the use of facial recognition software, the problem of lost documentation could be resolved. Technology is playing an important role in improving the livelihoods of many across the globe. There are many tech-for-good organizations which use new technologies in their operations to end poverty, fight injustice, and help provide better access to health. All these benefits have become self-evident over the past several months, as the disruptive impact of COVID-19 has forced virtually all segments of society to derive a new form of functionality from harnessing digital technologies. However, there are some evils and some challenges for digital transformation. Companies who have tried, according to a survey of directors, CEOs, and senior executives, they found 70% of all initiatives to digitally transform have failed. Out of 1.3 trillion that was spent, 900 billion in 2019 went to waste. Why? They're saying at least 5 fundamental issues need to be addressed for digital transformation to be successful for businesses. 1, figure out your business strategy before you invest in the technology. What do you want to get out of the technology? 2, do not dismiss your current staff who have intimate knowledge about what works and doesn't work in your daily operations. 3, design customer experience from the outside in. 4, Recognize employees' fear of being replaced, a real and genuine fear. And 5, bring a Silicon Valley startup culture, which generally promotes agile decision-making, rapid prototyping, and flat structures. 3 out of the 5 tips focus on your people. Digital transformation, 4th industrial revolution, does not necessarily replace humans, but they require the involvement and the engagement of humans for it to be successful. Otherwise, it is a waste of money. Our morality and ethics are being challenged more than ever in the 4th industrial revolution. Artificial intelligence was created to mimic human behavior, to improve efficiency and to reduce or erase human errors. However, humans are emotional and biased beings. How many times have we misinterpreted a text message forever? For instance, when we might not have reacted in the same way if we had been speaking to that person. Then there's our ability to forgive flaws and give others another chance. As with many things in our world, the 4th industrial revolution is only good as the people who are behind it. And I want to repeat that. The 4th industrial revolution is only as good as the people behind it. As we begin to embrace this wave of change, take for instance, Japan. Japan has one of the biggest aging populations in the world, yet they aim to create a super smart environment by incorporating robotics and technology across every field, from infrastructure to healthcare, with a Society 5.0 strategy. An important strand of this scheme is looking at how technology might impact society and happiness level. The key to surviving the 4th industrial revolution is to become lifelong learners as we move towards an inevitable technological future. This one is particularly important, and I do want to get your attention if you have not been listening before. This week, as in this Wednesday, the Special Rapporteur on Racism, Tendai Achiume, presented her concerns in a report delivered on Wednesday to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. And when I first heard of this 2 years ago, it was with great alarm, and I made it my business to be at every UN meeting for this issue. Technology is not neutral or objective, said Ms. Achiume, who was appointed by the UN Council, and she's not a UN staff or paid by the UN. It is fundamentally shaped by the racial, ethnic, and gender and other inequalities prevalent in society. It is resulting in discrimination and unequal treatment in areas of life, from education, employment, to healthcare, and criminal justice. She continues. Corporations such as Facebook have economic and business models that mean they actively profit from misinformation, discrimination, and intolerance. Adding that many governments have adopted algorithms which discriminate against marginalized groups. In addition to pressing for reparations for those affected by entrenched racism, Ms. Achiume also called for possibly banning some technologies. She says, the death of George Floyd and countless others have prompted a transnational uprising against systemic racism in law enforcement. Part of the human rights response must include greater scrutiny of how the design and use of digital strategies is further entrenching the systemic racism. What she suggested as a solution, this is where everyone who's listening is important. To prevent and eliminate racial discrimination in technological design will require having more racial and ethnic minorities in the decision-making in the industry. We might say, well, how do I become involved? I'll get to that. States must provide a full spectrum of the effective remedies for those against whom emerging digital technologies have racially discriminated. And we all thankfully live in democracies. So we can lobby our state for this information through whatever means. Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Freedom of Information Act. Different governments have different means of you requiring this information. What is your police force using? How is it discriminated against any group, any marginal group? This includes accountability for racial discrimination and reparations to the affected individuals and communities. Another author, Ruha Benjamin, and she has a book entitled Race After Technology, argues that discriminatory design can perpetuate inequality, reinforcing systemic racism, all while under a cloak of neutrality or even progressivism. In this conversation, she discusses the current climate of surveillance and how race itself can be used as a kind of technology. In technology, think of systems, garbage in, garbage out. Even if these systems are being designed to be smart and to be able to respond, it's still an algorithm that you, a human, you have created, and a system has to either prompt or follow. If you've seen the movie The Matrix, you might remember the cut scene. Neo, Keanu Reeves, and his fellow rebels are in the Matrix, the artificial world created by machines to enslave humans. Neo sees a black cat cross his path, and then the same black cat passes by again. Neo mistakes it for deja vu, but the rebels know it is a glitch, a hiccup that happens when their machine overload changes something in the Matrix. It's a glimpse behind the curtain to the oppressive reality. The Matrix analogy is one example in Mrs. Benjamin's book. She argues that far from being neutral, our technology carries deep biases. They can support, conceal, and propagate systematic racism. The thing is, our technologies don't need individual technologies with racist intent. Technologies are cultural, political products and often reflect the society they come out of. Let's talk a little bit about facial recognition technology. Research has shown that not only are most of these systems faulty at detecting people with darker skin, they are also known to misgender Black women in particular. I remember one study they shared when I was at the UN, and they said they had Michelle and Oprah, and they saw them as men. The system didn't pick them up as Black women. And a lot of that has to do with the training data that goes into teaching algorithms how to detect individuals. And so at a strictly technical level, they often are incorrect, but also because of the larger context in which Black people and Black communities are over-policed, it increases the likelihood that we are going to have false positives. For example, the UCLA administration was considering adopting a facial recognition system that would detect students, faculty, and staff as they came on campus, as a way to deter intruders and people who didn't belong. But a digital rights nonprofit called Fight for the Future studied the recognition system that UCLA was going to adopt and found that 58 false positive matches of students and faculty were tagging these people as likely criminals, and that a vast majority of them were Black and brown people. And so it's not just the police use of it, but across all institutions, educational, healthcare. We have to be wary of these systems because they may not be accurate and they may not be neutral, but also of the way they reinforce racist forms of policing and surveillance. I go to Michelle Bachelet. Mrs. Michelle Bachelet is a two-time former president of Native Chile and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think it's May she said this. New technologies can be used to mobilize and organize peaceful systems, form networks and coalitions, thus driving social change. Ms. Bachelet said, but as we've seen, they can be and are being used to restrict and infringe on protesters' right to surveil and track them and invade their privacy. In a worrying development, more states are increasingly using facial recognition technology to identify protesters, sometimes in real life. She was concerned at protesters having their cell phones calls intercepted or blocked by many police forces or their social media hacked and systematically monitored. Too often, authorities have viewed peaceful assemblies as something that needs to be controlled or managed, Ms. Hicks told journalists. rather than as critical vehicles for public participation in democracy. So I have exposed you to what is a digital transformation, a little bit of the fourth industrial revolution, but I also want to expose you to the digital divide. Think of it. If the plan is to transform the way we do, the way we live, the way we work, the way we study, and to push the world systems online into an ecosystem of a digital ecosystem. Right now, 50% of the world does not have access to the internet. Ms. Bachelet insisted it was crucial that states ensure secure and affordable online access for everyone. Given the importance of the enjoyment of the right of peaceful assembly for democracies and the role of internet-based technologies can play, it is crucial that states close the digital divide and ensure the greatest number of people the possibilities. What is a digital divide? It is a concept or a social issue referring to differing amounts of information between those who have access to the internet, especially broadband, fiber, and those who do not have access. Broadly speaking, the difference is determined by access to the internet, whether it be speed, type of machine, platform, access. Today, the most discussed issue is the availability of access and the affordability and quality. It is not a single gap which says poor or don't have it. It depends on the quality. Dial-up connection or broadband. Difficulty, literacy, technical assistance, access, affordability, all those issues play into the digital divide. Why is there a need to bridge the gap for the digital divide? With the world focusing on the fourth industrial revolution and transforming our systems, if half the world are not in line, so many of them are in countries that we either off Mother Africa or the diaspora do not have access to the best quality of service. Some of the challenges and some of the arguments why we should close the digital divide is economic quality. The internet should be considered a basic component of civil life that some developed countries aim to guarantee for their citizens. Telephone is often considered important for security reasons, health, criminal, and other types of emergencies. Secondly, social mobility. Computers and computer networks play an increasingly important role in learning and career. And as we've seen with COVID-19, 90% of our schools, at least those with access to technology, have gone online. And the challenge continues even in the first world countries, where there are children without internet, without devices to access internet. Democracy. Some think that the internet and the use of the internet would lead to higher democracy in one way or another. And personally, I strongly believe it has been quite useful in the Black Lives Matter movement, because the world came online, and for the first time ever, I could be wrong, we actually saw that horrible act performed upon George Floyd, and it just enraged and stimulated an activity that we've never seen in our lifetime. And number 4, economic growth. Some think that development of information infrastructure and active use will be a shortcut to economic growth. So consider countries who do not have access to technology, access to devices. Even if you have both, you cannot afford it because it's not considered a necessity. Your focus is on your rent or food or your basic necessities. It gets even a little bit scarier. The tech industry is largely a man's world and a white man's world. According to the National Center for Women and Information Technology Study, women of color made up 11% of the computing and mathematical workforce in 2019. Black women only made up 3% of the total. These numbers are changing, but very slowly. Due to COVID, the attitude of policymakers, organizations, and even members of the public towards digital technology has shifted from skepticism, uncertainty, to a firm acknowledgement that digital technology now constitutes an important catalyst of development. I would like to touch on a few countries in the diaspora and on the motherland and what they have been doing. For the Caribbean, under the Samoa Pathway, which emerged out of the third United Nations International Conference on Small Island Development States in 2014, they concluded that science, technology, and innovation are essential enablers and drivers for sustainable development, and recommended the use of modern and environmentally sound technologies, data, and statistics in development planning. Jamaica and the Trinidad and Tobago government have both recognized digital transformation as a catalyst for their Vision 2030, the national roadmap strategies for sustainable development. In the case of Jamaica, the country has generally improved in 4 areas: internet access, online services, telecommunication infrastructure, and human capacity. Their internet penetration is at 60%, up from 27% in 2010. They offer a wide range of e-services and enjoy a deep penetration of mobile services, 112% mobile. They have a relatively advanced ICT infrastructure with 4G LTE telecom. As of 2018, the World Economic Forum rated Jamaica's economic growth as being severely constrained by the low levels of ICT adoption, low levels of exports, and low innovation capability. However, this year, the president of the Inter-American Development Bank believes Jamaica is likely to become the first digital society in the Caribbean. They have accelerated digital transformation and will ensure that the country is able to take a giant leap forward in improving the lives of its people. Trinidad and Tobago, under its Vision 2030 National Development Strategy, they have rolled out a national ICT plan and e-commerce strategy. Quite recently, some government ministries have offered services online with paper, driving license, and that should expand to other areas. I will touch on Rwanda. Rwanda is deemed or described as the tech hub of Africa. We know the history of Rwanda, and we know of the leadership of Rwanda. And we believe these initiatives are successful largely because of political will. So it's either there's pressure from the people or there's leadership and political will to make this happen. In late May 2020, the East African nation became a success case study in yet another medical milestone when it incorporated using robots to limit the spread of coronavirus. While using robotics is not new for Rwanda, because the country has long been using drones to deliver blood to hospitals in a land of 1,000 hills. To overcome the terrain challenges, Rwanda has been using drone technology called zipline to deliver blood in a short time, where in some cases the time has been reduced from 4 hours to 15 minutes. Following the coronavirus outbreak, the country turned to drones to police citizens and enforce lockdown measures, while at the same time informing them of how to stay safe. This innovation was enabled by the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, which was looking for unconventional approaches and technologies to combat the spread of the virus in Rwanda. As a trendsetter, Rwanda is the only African country. It was ranked in the top 4 in the report political empowerment category. A 2018 pilot on empowering women was carried out in the countryside along Nigeria, Kenya, and Senegal. The African Development Bank, calling for employment initiatives, is establishing 130 ICT centers for excellence in Africa, training 234,000 youths for employability and entrepreneurship to create over 9 million jobs. Rwanda's government also supports initiatives like the Miss Geek Rwanda, which is an initiative of girls in ICT aiming to encourage school-age girls, even those in remote areas, to develop innovative tech or business ideas. I'll jump to Senegal. In Senegal, public authorities joined a growing number of investors who want to promote entrepreneurship and innovation through digital technology. 1 billion CFA out of 30 billion fund for Senegal's new Fast Start Entrepreneurship, managed by the General Delegation for Women and Youth Entrepreneurship. Regarding COVID-19, it was not just the Western world that had scientific know-how how to beat the virus. Senegal, in its laboratory, has used its AIDS and Ebola experience to develop a $1 COVID-19 testing kit. Engineering students in Senegal have joined their country's fight against the coronavirus pandemic with inventions such as automatic sanitizer dispensers and medical robots. One example is a small robot called Dr. Carr, which will be used to measure patients' blood pressure and temperature, according to students from Dakar's Ecole Supérieure Polytechnique. I will jump to the UAE. The UAE has a Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, and they have opened a center for the fourth industrial revolution in Dubai. If we look at the biggest companies in the world and the wealthiest, I'm looking at the top 20 richest companies and corporations in the world, and they are Alibaba, Facebook, Berkshire, Alphabet, which is Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple. What do you see running as a common thread? At least 7 out of 10 are technology or data-driven organizations. They have dominated this space, and the understanding is that that will continue. But then we say, I did not forget Nigeria, because I wanted to make sure all the different countries were represented. Who is the highest paid robotics engineer in the world? Well, in case you didn't know, he is Silas Adekunle, forgive me. He is a builder of the first gaming robot in the world, a Nigerian British entrepreneur, and the co-founder and CEO of Reach Robotics. He has a UK-based company called Makeda, a smartphone control robot using augmented reality to create Battlefield. And what has he been doing? Partnering with Apple. Apple began selling his products exclusively online and in stores last November in a push to promote hardware startups. This is him speaking. The partnership with Apple has been fruitful. He added that he's looking to continue the relationship. We have many more products to bring to market. Forbes reports that Apple was impressed by the quality of its robots and the ability to show emotion with subtly calibrated movements. Apple priced the Makeda at $300 and sells the BattleBots in almost all of its stores in the US and Britain. And as I get ready to close, I have given you a snapshot of technology. As my mother would say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is not a luxury. This is not optional. This should be a requirement. People of African descent cannot be marginalized and excluded from the direction that the world is going towards. What can we do? How do we become prepared? My first step is start with what we have. I would say I will go like an ecosystem starting from the top. So starting with the UN, then your government, then your school, then your community, then you as a person. At the UN level. And sometimes we dismiss the UN, but at the UN, many political decisions are made there that trickle down to your country and that eventually affects you. So do you have representation at the UN who are speaking up on issues that are important to you? Is your ambassador, is your minister of foreign affairs, is your prime minister aware of these issues? Your government. What does your government have in place to prepare the students, the Ministry of Education, the systems, the HR for the fourth industrial revolution? What about our schools? Are there devices? Is there internet access? What about our communities? Are we offering trainings in our community centers? What can we use? Use what we have. We can use our emancipation committees to lobby and make representation. Our community councils, our churches, our PTAs. And what about you? It starts with you. because your job may not exist in the next 10 years. How are you preparing yourself for the fourth industrial revolution? I strongly suggest that we take a look at what is going on, that we find a way to become involved. There are many organizations who are already pushing this. They may need your support. They may need your funding. They may need your Facebook or social media activism. They may need this issue to be brought to the ears of the right people. And at a smaller ecosystem level, we want you to be prepared. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. This has been my field for the last 20 years. And I do not want us to not be in spaces where decisions are being made on behalf of us and we are not there. As a parent, do you know what subjects are your children choosing? Do you know what programs are they studying? Will it exist in the next 10 to 15 years? This is no time for us to say, well, let them do what they need to do. This is our time. And with COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter movement, the time is right to speak up on issues that impact us and that will positively or negatively impact our quality of life. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. That was very enlightening and very, very poignant on where society is going, not only nationally, but internationally. And what we need to do to prepare ourselves, even now, at home and abroad. And these conversations are becoming more and more needed in our community. The need to study STEM subjects, STEM programs in our schools for our students. I remember when I was in school not so long ago, studying physical therapy, that I learned the same statistic is in the physical therapy field, occupational therapy, respiratory therapy. There's only 3% of Black people in that field, 3% Africans in that field, across the board. And this subject here, when you go to schools and you see what are we studying? Fashion, sports. What subjects are our students or our children, our peers, what are they involved in? And is that going to make a difference for our survival? Is that going to make, because what you're talking about here is survival. You're talking about survival, survival of the race, survival of the people, everywhere from, on every level, in medical, in every forum, in the scientific forum, in the critical, in the criminal justice system. Our people are in need of a wake-up call, and that's why we organized the New African Network, to enlighten people of the issues and concerns, you know, and where we're going to be. And you just said in 5 years. You said in 5 years. You said in 10 years. We may not even have our jobs in 10 years. The jobs we have now, we may not have. I just want to say, if you could talk a little bit more about Rwanda. I was impressed about what's going on in Rwanda. The information that you brought about Rwanda, and it seems like in Rwanda, the example that you gave, the people, this technology placement of our people, it can, depending on where you are and how we position ourselves, it can either be for positive or for negative. Rwanda has taken it on a negative. It seems like they're in control of their technology. I think you're on mute. If you're speaking, I can't hear you, Madam Ambassador. Rwanda has taken control. And we had a forum months ago. Do we need our own social network forums? Do we need our own social network programs? Do we need our own technological programs, right? Yeah. I'd like to hear what Brother Eugene has to say, because I know he has a mouthful.
Yeah, that's what's up. Hey, thank you, Sister Makeda Cambridge, for coming on our show this evening. And for sure, you're giving us some very vital information that is very important to our community. I am a kid of the 80s, and so I grew up during the time where there was a divide within the Black community, and many of the opportunities that exist in the investment arena at that time, we missed out on because we were unaware of some of the technology advances that were going on within the IT, high-tech communications, telecommunications industry. But we're a generation of new leaders, as I often speak of, and we are a generation of trained and very highly skilled individuals from the communities in which we live in. So my question is to you. I see that you have a very extensive background and you have been working with the African Development Bank, and shout out to President of the bank, Akinwumi Adesina, who is the current president. And this gentleman has been doing some very extraordinary things on the continent of Africa for bringing in IT, telecommunications, you name it, agriculture. So where do you see us going now, moving into the future, that African people are more advanced than what our ancestors had been and have more of an opportunity to really make things happen during, you know, I guess our time at the table? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And then my question is also twofold. The second question would be, you being the ambassador of Trinidad Tobago. Trinidad is a very highly skilled country in technology. It becomes, most of it come from its being the production of oil and gas has given the country a little edge. And so I want to also find out, where does the country fit in now with this relationship, member relationship, as a part of the CARICOM and its initiative to develop many of the Caribbean nations? I yield the floor.
Thank you, Brother Eugene. What next? I think that's where we come in. You're correct in terms of missing out opportunities because we were not well positioned, or sometimes we just access the information, and those that do have it, not sharing with the rest of them because they may not be as collectivist in their thinking as so we all grew. What I've been seeing a lot of is, especially the generation Y and Z, they're not waiting on anybody. They're going forward. They're creating their own companies, they're creating their own NGOs, they're going after the opportunities. They're no longer waiting for somebody to say, this is available to you. Take, for instance, Rwanda. Rwanda's example, Rwanda has been leveraging all the opportunities, resources, financing, technologies available to them, whether it's the African Union, whether it's the African Development Bank, whether it's the United Nations. You will find a lot of the initiatives are in partnership with these international organizations, as well as their public-private partnership. I think the NBA started a league or a subsidiary in Rwanda. Then this university, Carnegie Mellon, started a campus in Rwanda. So a lot of it is the government and the political will. And Rwanda is a bit unique because many times governments will speak and say what needs to be said and promise the world, and then macroeconomic factors coming, external issues that sometimes disrupt their own plans. So technology may not be seen as first priority anymore. Let's feed the people, let's fix the road, let's focus on the basics, not understanding that investing in technology is investing in your present and your future. So what should happen is do our own thing, create our own things, but I really believe we need to put pressure on our decision makers because they listen to us when we speak. And many times we choose not to speak on issues that are impacting us. Many times there is no voice. There's nobody in the room saying, I have a problem with this. And how come we're not getting resources? And how come nobody has come to the curb? I mean, sometimes people are not speaking. One of the things I have seen at Geneva, there are a number of NGOs that come and they attend like the Human Rights Council. But there are other opportunities for NGOs to lobby other human rights organizations. Whether it is the UN Conference for Trade and Development, or WTO has more rules. Then you have ITC, International Trading Center. They tend to provide funding opportunities for NGOs if you reach out to them. You have an initiative, you have an NGO, and make it work, because there are a number of resources that are available, but most of them will take some time. It will not happen overnight, but we need to take leadership. I absolutely believe that. For Trinidad and Tobago, yes, we have been blessed, as we say, God is a Trini, and that oil has helped us to cushion some of our financial and economic decisions. Vision 2020, which is the brainchild of a former Prime Minister and has been adopted by this current Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, into Vision 2030, always saw technology as a catalyst for economic development. So there was a plan, and there was a cross-ministerial plan. It wasn't just one ministry who is the overseer, but you're working with Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Community Development, Ministry of Education, and all the different aspects that are specific to those ministries, you're including them. Now, the Caribbean has, I believe, a digital single space ICT plan, don't quote me, which is a decision that was made at least 2 or 3 years ago, that they want to create a single ICT space for the Caribbean. So all Caribbean governments come together and look for opportunities. Where it is create, I'm not saying create your own Facebook, but create your own online platform that even if you are attracting international opportunities, but you go using the technology and you partner together. So there has been conversations at the CARICOM level on the digital ICT space. There have been policies and legislations that have been put forward, but I think with the economic situation not being the strongest in the last 5 years, some of the goals have not been achieved. And now with COVID-19 is a whole re-strategizing, reorganizing. And I hope in the reorganizing, our leaders do not dismiss technology, because COVID-19 has proven that's where the world is, and that's where the world is going. Just to respond to Alola's comment, you said, did you mean Rwanda did it positively, right? Because it took control? Yeah, because I think you said negative. Okay, so you wanted to make sure.
Yeah, positive. Yeah. It seems like they did a positive thing with the technology.
They did a positive thing. Meeting with the leadership in Rwanda, even the ambassadors and how they think, they have been committed to changing the negative stereotype that happened in their country and using it to take them to the highest place. This is from the top down. I would meet with ministers, with permanent secretaries, and the young people. I mean, under 35, under 45. If you have an idea, let's test it. Let's get somebody to fund it. Let's move with it. So a lot of it, I feel, and from my observation, it is political will. It is the leadership saying, we are making a general decision, we have a strategy, we have a plan working towards that. Because I left out a lot of the conversation, I left out a lot of areas on Rwanda that I had in my notes. So they have been getting really high scores for gender equality. You cannot just train your boys and your girls are not part of your workforce. And yes, we do believe the family is important and we need to make sure that family structures are strong. But Rwanda, coming out of the tragedy, a lot of women have been involved at the political level, at the decision-making level. So for them, it is not abnormal to have women ministers, women leaders, and women are choosing the fields of ICT. Similar to what you said concerning STEM. It affects Black women, Black men, it's the same thing. We're always under 10% in any of these fields. And when I talk to schools, when I do my school tour, my charity, children hardly ever choose technology fields. And most times it's because there's no exposure. You don't know anybody in that field. that seems too far removed from you, I'm thinking, I'm not going to get a job. I don't know anybody there. I'm not going to do that. Even me, stumbled upon this career. But
I'd
once
like to, sorry, madam, go ahead.
But once we expose our children and let them know there are success stories right now, literally, you could just write a code, do an app and sell it and make money. Like right now, the opportunities are not limited. We just have to encourage our children and even adult people to jump on board and not be afraid of the technology.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that is our role as conscious Africans, because the question is, what is the role of, or rather, what does the slave master educate his slave to be? Okay, we know the answer to that, right? Everybody nod. Yeah, the slave master will only teach their slaves to be slaves. Exactly. So that is where we as conscious Africans come in, okay? We have to create the schools, create the environment. The first school is at home. And so, yeah, it's important that our women are educated because they are the first teachers of the nation. Our women are the first teachers. And so the first teachers have to be educated to, you know, how will we survive the next 5, 10, 15, 400 years? Okay, that's where we have to move into. And then we have to create our own institutions because we are really, you know, trying to depend on these institutions that have only oppressed us to do what? Educate us so that we can become free? I don't think so. That's not going to happen. But because we have been blessed with this consciousness, right? To even call ourselves Africans is a blessing, right? A lot of us still want to be anything but an African. We don't have to say what or whatever, you know? We know what I'm talking about. We don't even want to be African. So just for us to cross that line says a lot about us. And now we have to take control so that our students, our children, can be geared to the right form of education, instead of, you know, certain things like where we're going. You know, sports is good, you know, but when you do studies, you see that most poor people in the world, you know, they enjoy sports, right? Entertaining things. So, but there's a place for that for us. I'm not saying we don't need that. There is a place. And also, you know, we go into things like fashion. We want to be designers, you know. We go into these things, entertaining, which is also probably a miseducation of the African also, right? Because what did the slave master have us doing? Playing music for them, entertaining them, you know, and those things. I see a hand, Miss Sister Boomy. How you doing tonight?
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Madam Ambassador, I can't thank you enough for this presentation. I actually came here with mixed feelings because I love my country. I'm a Nigerian. You know, I cannot be more proud of Silas Adekunle, but I also know from running 2 local schools for children from low-income earning families in Nigeria that the challenges, they're almost surmountable. We have over 500 students registered. Since the COVID-19 and the school shut down, we have been providing free online classes, and we're hardly able to get a 20% of our children to sign on because most of them don't have regular electricity. They don't have, their parents don't have smartphones. They don't have access to internet. You know, it is very daunting. We actually started in 2016 to introduce coding and using Raspberry Pi, coding robotics to these children, but we have no support from any government. So what you said about Rwanda, I was in Rwanda last year. I mean, I'm so proud. I'm so happy for Rwanda's example. But the problem of leadership. Honestly, I'll be very surprised if the president of my country even knows how to use the computer. Not to talk of, see it as a priority. So please, we need people like with all this information and access, to kind of propagate this idea more. And honestly, I would really like to hook up with you, to see how you can maybe mentor us through getting access for our kids, for some of these from some of these agencies. Thank you. I'm sorry I've taken so much time.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, because I have a charity called Genesis the Movement, and we focus on education and academic excellence. And we really want to focus on the children who should be doing better, who settle for a level of mediocrity. So I have teachers in my charity who share the same concern. Even my sister, who's online, she's a teacher, and she has the same concern, where it is a mindset you have to change, because the priority is not there. We need to do it, but how we socialize our life and how we prioritize what is important, we still think we have a few years again. That's not so important. The child will catch up with it. So I do agree that I have seen that the people on the ground do the work. The people in the NGO space, they do the work. The people with the passion and love, who are not seeking money or titles, they make the world a better place. So I want to congratulate you on your efforts and continue to pray that you have great success. And even if one child comes on, it moves to 2 and moves to 3, and you still see it as a sign of success. And yes, you can reach out to me, because I am interested in seeing how we can just encourage our people to come on board. Come on board. Personally, it is the best job ever. I get to travel the world and get paid really well. Come on, like, why would we not encourage our young people to do jobs in this field? Why would we think that they would fail from the start? So we as adults, we as their uncles and their mummies, we have to encourage them and open their eyes. Of course, it's their choice, and they're young, so they feel they know it all. And sometimes they know a little bit more than us. Sometimes they know platforms that we don't even know. And I only look young, I'm not that young. But we need to listen to them, because they have ideas and they are willing to cut through the status quo, and what we are saying quiet about, they will fight for us. So just encourage them and give them the tools. And just responding to Lola, it is cause of concern that, yes, we would like to have our own organizations. And as a Seventh-day Adventist, we tend to have our own organizations. And that can be a medium or long-term plans. But what I have seen is there are so many opportunities available now that we don't have to beg, that we don't have to borrow, we don't have to steal, as my mom used to say. That is available now, that we don't even apply for. The grants, the training, the online. Who are you doing the online training with? Google? Coursera, free online courses in anything you name in technology, just free. People are not going online. You can get a certification. Go on LinkedIn, have a business profile, create what do you want to be, have a dream. We need to understand that we are very, very gifted people. And one of the ways that we have been enslaved is by telling us that we can't do it.
Yeah.
So once we remove that lid of enslavement, that's not for me, that space is not created for you, then you realize, why not? Why not? Why can't I try this job? Why can't I apply for this program? Why not? And if you tell me no the first time, I'll go again the second time or the third time. Look at our ancestors, look at our forefathers, how many things they have gone through. We have not even gone through what they have been through. Being hosed, being beaten, being raped, and all of that. We're still free. We get to go to school. We get to live in our own house, drive our own car. We need to fight for our children and fight for our future, because nobody's going to do it for us.
Oh yeah, Madam Ambassador. Just real quick, we have about 15 minutes left, because the host has to go and participate in another meeting somewhere else. For that. Also, would you tell us more about your organization? What is it? I was reading in your bio, it's called Genesis International. Oh wait, Genesis the Movement.
Okay, so Genesis the Movement, So yes, Genesis International is the business consulting part, where I am a strategic partner for mobile and telecom companies who want to come into the Caribbean and South American regions. Because of my relationship and strategic partnerships, business development, product management, I work with you to close a deal. Genesis, the movement, focuses on children and the elderly. So Genesis, the movement, we award the most improved, we started off with the most improved girl because we wanted girls like myself to consider technology. So we give you a tablet and encourage you to excel. Trinidad is a little bit of an unusual environment where we are more like a democratic socialist government. So there are a lot of government services available to you. You can get more than the average democracy. And sometimes you find people take that for granted and not push themselves to their greatest potential. So we wanted people to be your best self, not just satisfied with getting a C when you can get an A. Don't get a D when you can get a B. That was the push for Genesis. So far, we've rolled out in 17 schools. I think 12 primary schools. I could send you the correct numbers. We're in high schools and 1 university. Last year, I launched there's a separate program for university students. So if you're a woman and you're studying computer science or any technology field, you win a scholarship, which is like probably 500 or 1,000 US, that contributes towards your tuition or living expenses, and you get an award. The focus of Genesis is really to encourage our children to be their best, not just academically, because we choose the most all-rounded student. We don't choose a child who's the brightest, and we tend to give preference to children who are from single parents. So right now we're working along with the ministry, well, some of the schools, to get tablets, because there are many students without devices. Even if the ministry is focusing on giving internet access, we're working with some of the schools to get them devices for the children, because school may open in September, but those who write like our C, which is our national exam for Form 5s, for Standard 5s, they're in the next month. So basically, that's what the charity is about.
Thank you, sister. We appreciate that information that you provided for us. I remember working with the Ministry of Trade, a gentleman by the name of Vincent, I think it's Barharth, who was the former Minister of Trade and Investment at the time, and he had been discussing various ways that he can improve education opportunity on the island of Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you for that information. And tell us, how can we get in touch with you? Give us a little bit of information about how we can get directly in contact with you. You have an internet website that our listeners and viewers can go to obtain some general information about yourself and about the programs that you're executing. Okay, so I'm on Facebook. There's a professional Facebook page, Makeda Antoine-Cambridge. You can also find me on Wikipedia. Genesis the Movement also has its own Facebook page. I am on Instagram, not so much. You'll just see my cooking on Instagram. I am on Twitter, probably more silent, but I am on Twitter as well. We might have to have another show now coming up. We're gonna see what you can cook up in there. Vegan cooking. So you find me on Twitter as well. You reach out to me via email. I'll share my email address via the group chat. And I am available to partner, to assist, to mentor, because I do believe we are ridiculously intelligent, gifted, creative people. And we need to showcase our greatness. Our God did not give us all this talent for us to sit and look as others. That's what's up. Well, that's kind of all of what this situation, what we've been going through for the past couple of years. And I know it's been some very wild and extraordinary stuff that has been happening throughout the universe. And this is a wake-up call for African people to unite and to join one another as brothers and sisters in the universe and create our Black world. That's what we've been trying to get at for such a very long time, and our ancestors have come back now to guide us into our next chapter. We are the new breed leader generation, which has given us the opportunity to do things that our ancestors, our forefathers had not had a chance and an opportunity to do. And so we come together enlightened with the positiveness of being African, being an educated African person, and being able to look towards our future, not just concentrating on what has happened to us in the past, but getting into a focus to where we know where our future, what direction that we want to lead our future towards, as well as our African nation itself. So thank you, sister, for this information. Are there any questions for any of our listeners out there before we get to the end of this program? Feel free to chime in at this point.
Yeah, I have a question, Jerome here. So yeah, I was just curious. It's been a while since I've been back in Trinidad. So what's the situation like right now in terms of politically and resources? Are we still like really doing well with the oil and the petroleum? And is the government fairly stable? Yeah.
I smile at the last comment because August 10th is election. So right now we're in the silly season of campaigning and electioneering. We generally have a very stable government, thank God, fingers crossed. Yes, the oil has been our main source of revenue, still is. We have seen decline in the price of oil, which means less revenue is available to the government. But there's still a commitment to move online because governments are realizing that you reduce your costs when you use technology. So there continues to be developments promoting technology. I don't think that will change. There needs to be some revisiting of what we have prioritized for the last 5 years, given where we are right now with COVID-19 and where the world is positioning us to go. But thank God we're still doing okay. And we pray that continues.
Okay, it's good to hear.
What of Petrogen? I realized it closed down not so long ago.
Petrotrin, yeah. So Petrotrin, which is the government organization, petroleum organization, Petroleum Organization of Trinidad and Tobago. So that was closed down because of mismanagement and other issues. And they have created Heritage, a new government-owned entity. And there have been talks to create a new refinery because the understanding is, even if this is where your bread and butter is, you understand that the world is about to change. So we are looking at new and renewable sources of energy, as well as increased diversification. It should not be our main focus, our main source of revenue for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago is a very agricultural based island as well. I remember doing some work in the Mora Valley with the cocoa industry. It's very big there. Can you tell us a little bit about what type of climate is the agricultural? How is the agricultural industry there as of right now? I know cocoa is one of the main crops, and it's one of the highly prized cocoas that are being produced on Earth. So can you tell us a little bit about the atmosphere with that?
Correct. So we have chocolate, we have cocoa and chocolate, one of the best qualities in the world that still exists. There has been increased investment in agriculture. We opened our first agro-processing facility in the southeastern part of the country this week. The Prime Minister opened it. Recently, he even went online and was showing us his gardens, and we've seen the impact of everybody is growing their gardens during the COVID. But there has been leadership from a leadership level, conversations on focusing on growing our food because our import bill is much too high, which is normal for countries whose quality of life is improving. You want to try other foods, you can afford to, but there's a need for us to decline our import bills, to reduce our import bills, and to make sure our foreign reserves are still strong. So agriculture is one of the means of diversifying our economy.
What is the percentage of Trinidadians working in agriculture as opposed to like foreign workers?
But have too many foreign workers. Now we have some Venezuelans because of the issues that Venezuela have been going on. And they are what 40,000 compared to 1.4 million people. So we don't have too many foreigners, but the refugees, well, they're not refugees, but they're migrants. The migrants have been in the field of agriculture. It is still largely Trinidadian and Tobagoan owned and led. It's a small number. I'm sure it's less than 5% of the population.
Wow, so there are only 40,000?
Based on the last system that the government has created where they are required to register, 40,000. Other people call other numbers, but I'll go with the government numbers.
I'm sorry?
Tranquilo. ¿Tú no hablas español? ¿Tú no hablas español?
Yeah, they would be considered
That was
refugees.
Johanny, and he was asking if you spoke in Spanish.
No.
Oh,
Well, the government introduced a policy about 5 years ago, where our primary school children are taught Spanish from primary school level.
Mhm.
And if you travel throughout Trinidad and Tobago, all of our signs are in English and Spanish.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah, I saw that in 2012 when I was there.
Hold on.
When
Hold on.
Trinidadians learn Spanish, maybe
Yeah,
they will say, call Diego Martin. We have about 3 more minutes, folks.
yeah, another question for
I like that, guys.
I saw that you worked for the United Nations. What is the good for the globalization? Or what is the good from the United Nations to African and the African and the children of Africa? What do you think? Why do you think we should be involved in the United Nations?
Why do you think we should be involved?
Yes, we as African people and African descendants, I mean all children of Africa. Why do you think we should be involved in the United Nations?
Okay, so at the United Nations, I was the ambassador for Trinidad and Tobago at the UN Geneva, as well as specialized agencies across Europe. So this is all the UN organizations, UNESCO, FAO, UN Crime, all the organizations. I think representation at the UN is important because a lot of political decisions are made. And if you are not there, they still impact you. So your voice is important, even if it is to stop it, because it is operated on a consensus basis. So ideally, any decision that is made, any policy, any group decision is with the consent of all members. And if you are a country, Africa is strong, Africa is 53 countries. What if Africa disagrees on any matter? Nothing is moving. It is understood. The African power is understood. So why not be there to speak on issues that impact you? Much like the conversation today, they will be implemented with or without you. So be there, negotiate for what you want, speak on behalf of your people, make sure you do the research and get the best out of the organizations. Because the United Nations is country-led. The UN is what countries bring to it. So if your country is quite silent or dormant or not speaking about an issue, then you suffer. The countries that do dominate generally are those who are quite vocal. So I believe it is a space we should not be active from. I believe we should be more strongly involved. I believe our voices should be heard. And now with technology, we may not be able to afford big missions or having people fly from our native countries to UN meetings, that we need to be there because these decisions affect us.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, well, I think we should get ready to end the program. Thank you, Sister Cambridge. Very powerful sister. We appreciate the intellect that you have brought to the program this evening. And we will definitely be in touch with you as members of the New Africa Network, United Africans United Business Network. And this program has been brought to all of you by Brother Omani, team members, Brother Raj, Brother Jerome, Sister Katari. We look forward to having you back on the program in the very near future. Okay, so we'll give let Brother Roz go ahead and close out the evening. Go ahead, Brother Roz. We yield the stage to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
brother. Thank you so much, brother. Brother Yohani, you'd like to say something?
Yes, I just want to tell her to. I just want to appreciate for her to come in, and we will be coming to Trinidad to establish Swahili school there and Swahili system as well. We make sure that no one is left behind, and we will also invite her back sometimes once we need her. And don't forget to join us every Saturday. This coming Saturday, we're gonna be talking about Ethiopia.
Well, you heard that, Madam Excellency. You were well received here, and we'd like to have you as our special guest again in the near future. And we will call on you, as Brother Yohani said, because we are involved in a movement to establish Kiswahili as the unifying language, the lingua franca, so to speak, of Africa at home and abroad, because we do need one common language to do business, and to unify Africa on a whole. And we believe that Swahili is that language. And so, as we said, it's for Africans at home and abroad. And when we get ready to come to Trinidad to establish our Swahili schools, we'll call on you and hope you can lead us in the right direction. So,
well, thank you for the opportunity to speak with my brothers and sisters on a very important topic. I really would like, even as we leave this session, that it would start in your own family. Look at your own job. And Alola did mention that we sometimes choose sports and fashion, and nothing is wrong with that, because technology is also infiltrating those industries. Industry you feel called towards, look at the technological aspect of it and seek out those opportunities. Yes. Whatever it is, media, music, technology is impacting every single segment of life. Yes. And I smile because in another life, I had a Kenyan boyfriend and spoke Swahili. So I know just a little of Swahili. And I know that Francophone Africa is not so much in agreement with Swahili, but I do wish you the best and have a great week, and may God continue to bless you.
Okay,
good night,
Thank
everyone.
you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. And I also like to give a quick shout out. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Sister Crystal Muhammad. And for those of you who are interested, the New Black Panther Party Association is recruiting individuals to join the Black Cross Initiative. That Black Cross Initiative goes out to assist and feed the homeless. And so if you're interested, you can contact Sister Crystal Muhammad or donate at $ Black Power Dollars at $ Black Power Dollars on your Cash App. And these funds will go to assisting feeding the homeless people during the crisis, the COVID crisis. So we appreciate you, Sister Cambridge, for all that you've provided for us this evening. And we'll see you all next Saturday. So stay tuned for the next episode. Have a great weekend.
All right, everybody. All right.
Good night.